Hey everybody! So as a COO or Chief Operating Officer at a marketing agency, I get about a gazillion tasks flying at me from every direction, every moment of the day. So with this bombardment of tasks and messages and emails and meetings and things like that, it's really tricky to keep track of stuff, just generally all kinds of stuff. So in this video I wanted to highlight some of my favorite tips and tricks that I've learned from my couple of years in this position, so that hopefully you can take something away from it as well. So let's dig right in. The first point I want to raise is to have a central database for all of your knowledge and notes. So this database doesn't have to be complicated. It can be just your Apple Notes app, for example, and it's actually what I typically use as my day-to-day database. So the way that this database should function is that you have it open every moment of the day, and every time something comes up that's not directly a task, we'll go into tasks in a moment, you write it down on a note. And then if you can't act on it immediately, then you review all of your notes at the end of the week and see for all of the action items and all of the things that you needed to remember. So having this kind of daily notes is really important, and it's really changed the way that I keep track of tasks and other items that I need to remember. And it's really made me more reliable at work, which I think generally is a good thing. So the second item is to never delay writing a task down. So whenever you get a task as a message on Slack or as an email or in a meeting, you never want to delay writing that task down. So there are a couple of ways you can go about this. The first one is just writing it down in your central database that we talked about just a moment ago. And this is really for tasks that are not important and that you don't need to act on right this week, because you'll review your notes database at the end of the week, and then you'll go through all of your action items that you've not done, and you can gather them on the next week's to-do list. And then there is the format of writing things down in your task manager. And having a task manager, I think, is really important. A task manager is an application typically that takes care of all of your tasks and typically should have some sort of prioritization function as well. So I use Todoist myself for this. I've used other tools in the past as well, but I found that Todoist works best for me. You can use any tool you want. Google Tasks works great also. As a task comes at you, you really want to write it down immediately, set a date for it, set a priority for it, if possible set even a project for it. So which sort of area of your life is this task part of? And then you'll be reminded of that task at the moment that you have to do it. So writing tasks down immediately as they come at you is really important, and it's made me more reliable again, in the sense that people don't have to check on my tasks because I have them all written down as they come at me. And it's typically better even to write more tasks down than you need to, and then just delete the tasks that are unnecessary off of your to-do list, or tasks that you can delegate to somebody else. Just delegating a task to somebody might be your task, and things like that to help you be more efficient. The third item is to make your tasks concrete as you're writing them down. So for example, in my work, I have a lot of strategy writing that I do, and write a strategy is not a good task. Instead, a better task might be to work for 25 minutes on this strategy, or work on this chapter for as long as it takes for you to finish it, and things like that. So make your tasks smaller and make them more bite-sized to reduce the sort of friction that occurs when you get a task, and especially if it's a big task. So reduce that friction by just making tasks really concrete, really actionable, and making starting the task as easy as humanly possible. The fourth thing is to communicate. And the importance of communication I really can't underline quite enough. I actually made a video about this just recently. You can find it from up there somewhere. And in this video I talked about something called strategic over-communication. And you can find the argument in that video for that idea. But essentially you just want to communicate as much as possible. And in our business we've actually created something called the Fyi culture, where the idea is that every time something comes up that relates to somebody else, you write them a short message saying, FYI, I just got this information, this task is progressing, things like that. So that you strategically over-communicate so that everybody keeps tabs on everything and the organization runs smoothly. The fifth item is to make tasks of other people's tasks. So this again applies only if you're working on a team. But essentially what I mean by this is that if you have a coworker, for example, that you know is less organized than yourself, you might make a task of their task. So for example, you might assign the task of writing a strategy to a coworker. And then you might assign to yourself a task, for example, 3 days from now, to check on that coworker and the progress of the strategy. And that's just a way that I make sure that everything that I assign gets done. And it also makes sure that I keep tabs on everything I need to, and it sort of doesn't make me rely on other people's memory. I can just have it down in my task manager, and that way I'll make sure that if somebody forgets to come back to me or update me on progress of a certain task, I can just get back to them and make sure that everything's progressing smoothly. The sixth thing is to reduce meetings as much as possible. So as somebody who regularly has 20 to 30 meetings in any given week, it's really important to reduce the amount of meetings as much as possible, because having too many meetings really reduces your time to do your actual tasks. And the way that you do this is of course by asking people, can we do this by message or can we do this by email, for example. Of course, some things you just physically cannot do without having a meeting, and that's completely fine. But as much as possible, you should try and ask people if something can be done via email, and being active with stating that you don't want to have too many meetings because they can waste everybody's time if not planned correctly. But of course, if they are planned and if they have a clear agenda and a clear goal, of course, at that point, having a meeting is a very good idea. The seventh thing relates to the first item on the list, and this is to take notes and review them. And this idea is that whenever you're in your day's meetings and you have your database open with your daily notes, you really want to make sure that you write down as many things as possible on that note, so that you have sort of a process by which you can review your week and review all of the things going on. So the brain is a really good tool to use for processing information and coming up with creative ideas, but it's not a good tool to keep track of information. So with this idea of the general database, I might go more into that in another video, but with this idea it's really important to have your daily notes and then writing down tasks and other items on that note in all of your meetings and things like that, so that you can keep track of everything. And then it is also really crucial to review all of your daily notes at the end of the week, so that you'll know what you need to get back to, you'll know to check on your progress in every area of your life and of your business, and it really helps you make sure that you're on track of everything. So the eighth and last item is to learn to be more efficient at work. And this is actually, I made a video about recently. It's called 6 things you can do to be more efficient at work. You can go check that video for my tips on how to be more efficient. But generally, I think focus and efficiency both are muscles that you can work on. and working on those muscles really make sure that you find success and you find that you get all of your tasks done and you can keep tabs of everything that's going on in your life. So these were some of my tips for keeping track of things in your life and stuff in general. If you found these tips valuable, I'd hope you consider subscribing to the channel and supporting my content. And I'll see you guys in future videos. Bye bye.